Hey guys, welcome to the show. I'm Roger. I'll be your host. Thank you so much for being here. Just a little bit of housekeeping to get rid of off the top. I really am sorry for the audio issues during the last episode. I've been working really hard to iron those bugs out. I appreciate your patience while we get that sorted. I think you'll find things much better in that respect from here on out. I wanted to take a moment to thank all the subscribers and the folks who left kind comments about the show. It's really appreciated. You know, you sit here working in a vacuum and those comments really help with keeping your momentum moving forward. So I appreciate it and look forward to many, many more comments as we progress on this journey together. Tonight, we have a really great eyewitness encounter from Fliss, a young lady from just north of Sydney who had a terrifying experience she's been kind enough to share with us. She'll also talk about another couple of encounters from people she knows, so you'll definitely want to hang around for that. Just as a note for you to think about, for an upcoming episode, Dave at Sunshine Coast Yowie Research contacted me recently. He's been investigating reports of a very aggressive Yowie who has been tormenting the folks in a rural community on the border of Queensland and New South Wales. We'll keep the location a secret for now so Dave can reach out to the local community without being pestered. Now, I actually went out into the field with Dave and his partner Sharon, and, well, there were a couple of moments there where we could have sworn. Well, anyway, we'll fill you in with Dave during a future episode. Oh, I should also mention that there has been some rumors that this creature may in fact be responsible for a hiker's death in the area. I'll get to that later, but it's pretty creepy and ties right in with the work of David Pallades and his Missing 411 series, which are related to strange disappearances in national parks and rural areas. If you're not familiar with it, I recommend you get out there and check it out. Upcoming shows, I'm talking to a bunch of different researchers who I feel are some of the best in the field. One in particular takes a very scientific approach to his investigations and has done some excellent work on spectral analysis breakdowns of Yowie footsteps, where he estimates the size and weight of the footsteps picked up by his remotely located microphones. And he does that by analyzing, the certain sound levels and the kilohertz range and all that sort of thing. So it's actually quite fascinating. He's very particular. He's actively researching all the time. So he's going to be an interesting guy to talk to. Look for that in an upcoming episode. Aside from that, one of my favorite guests on the subject is a guy by the name of Brett, and he's going to be coming on. He has had lifelong encounters with Yowies. He's actually based in a hotspot in an area of New South Wales and has had encounters going back to when he was a kid. Brett's been on Brent and Solon's Mysteries to Search before, and it was actually, funnily enough, one of my favorite episodes. So please, if you have had an experience related to this subject or any other spooky encounter out in the Aussie wilderness, I'd love to chat with you and maybe get you on the show. Please email me at theyowiefiles@gmail.com. Okay, I'd like to welcome Fliss to the show. Fliss, thanks for calling in.
No worries.
So, Fliss, you sent me an incredibly detailed account and one that was, I found quite terrifying. Would you care to go through that for us, sort of take yourself back to that day and, tell us what you were doing and who you were with and, what was going on, and take us all the way into the encounter?
Okay, no problem. This happened on the 18th of July 2015, so fairly recent. And about the time of day was about 10:30 a.m. I was with a girlfriend who we just reconnected from a high school reunion, and we used to go down to this area quite often as children, and we knew it very well. We were out all day, we're the generation where mum said get outside and don't come back, sort of thing. So we decided to go down to this area that we knew well and look at the Aboriginal carvings that were there. We used to be fascinated as children by them. So this place is basically quite suburban, really. I mean, it's north of Sydney. It's in a built-up area. It does have conservation-type areas around there, national park, I guess. So it was popular, though, and there were a lot of people that use this trail. So we just parked the car and decided to walk down what's now called Engravings Road. We wandered along and had a look. They've actually fenced off all the engravings, so we kind of just went to the side of them where we used to play as kids and had another look, and just really enjoyed it. Really enjoyed being back where we felt so good when we used to play there. We knew that there were other engravings just off the trail a bit further than that, because as children we sort of were in and out of little tracks everywhere. And we went into the one, what they've done is they've put a bit of a cutting into the bush to erect telephone poles, and so we were going down these and probably only, I don't know, they're probably only 20 metres in where they've been, pushed down by a bulldozer or whatever. So we went in there, and I noticed up high there was a trail cam on the pole. I thought, better be careful, better not go over the fence or do anything naughty. So we left that area and we walked down a little bit further, went into another cutting, and I was going to try and get in that way through the bush. But once I looked into the bush, it was so thick and prickly, and I mean, I'm not a chicken, I just go straight through normally, I don't worry about trails or anything. So we went into this area and I was peering in, leaning my head forward and peering in, trying to see where on earth we could get through. The next minute, and it was really quite a matter of minutes, it wasn't a long time, I heard footsteps, and they were big. They were just really definite bipedal footsteps. They were just clomp. You could hear the sticks breaking. You could almost feel it through the ground. It was quite heavy, and that sparked my sort of fear reaction straight away, because it just didn't feel like somebody walking along, maybe in the bush cracking sticks, and heavy, very heavy. So me being interested, I kept looking in and trying to get in further. So I probably got the top part of my body into this area, but I couldn't go any further. So just peering around, next thing there was no warning or anything. I still heard the footsteps. They seemed to be coming in front of me and to the left. So something was moving, not quite parallel, but not too far off it. And I was staring into it, and all of a sudden this massive yell came out. My friend she got scared with the footsteps, so she had already gone up to the junction of the track, probably 10 metres away. It was a powerful yell. It was one that it could have been human if it wasn't so powerful, because it was quite, the actual way it came out was like gra, so G-R-A. It was really pronounced. It was gra, And the noise I can't do. It was just powerful, and must have been an opera singer, I'm sure, because it was really scary. So of course then, in that instant second, we just turned around and ran. And I mean, we're 50 years old. We ran fast for our age, and we kept going until we got back down to the track just by the car. So catching our breath and turning around, we just waited, and nothing came out of that track. Nothing. If it was somebody walking, perhaps they would have been trying to get through and just thought they'd have a bit of a laugh at me, staring into the bush like that. But we waited and nothing came out. To me, if somebody was bushwalking back there without a track, they would have made their way to the main track, because it would have been a hell of a lot easier. I mean, this was incredibly dense bush, prickly. So that was kind of the short story of it all. It was something that I really want to go back. I can't get my friend to go back. She's terrified. She thinks that it's like a homeless person, a vagrant. I don't. The reason being that it was way too powerful. It was the footsteps, that was really heavy. I had been interested in Sasquatch in the US and Yowies here. That made me think, that maybe something is a bit askew here. Yeah, so that was kind of it.
Wow, that's an amazing encounter. I'm curious, when you actually heard the roar, what would you compare it to?
Yeah, it's hard because I don't know of anything in the bush that does that. Kangaroos do growl. It wasn't a growl. It wasn't like a grrr, that lower growl type thing that a dog may do. It was a big yell, and it was almost like it was in my face. It just went grrr, right at me and just, enveloped me. And I couldn't think of anything at the time. There were no thoughts at the time. I just simply turned around in a split second and ran. I just really lovely.
So what part of Australia was that in again, Fliss?
Yep, it's just near French's Forest, which is a suburb on the North Shore of Sydney. So it is quite nice there. It's got lots of bushland around it. That's why we played so much as children. We had a great big cave there that used to look out over a place called Bantry Bay. I think it's now called Garrigal. The park there has got an Aboriginal name now, and I think it's Garrigal. Sorry, I'm not sure about that. But, you know, of course, in the days when we were there, nothing was named or fenced or anything. Yeah.
So, Fliss, I'm kind of curious. You said you spent a lot of time playing there as a kid. Now, do you ever take your mind back there and wonder about certain things that might have happened there when you were younger that you could have dismissed as something else?
From childhood?
Yeah.
I must say that I always felt safe and comfortable in the bush. You know, the further isolated I was when I was there to say, because really the only thing I was worried about were, you know, bad people that we used to get drilled in, you know, stranger danger, that sort of thing, at that age. Because, I mean, I was probably 10 and very adventurous. So my mum doesn't know half the stuff we got up to, crawling through caves and walking on cliffs and things. But I must say, I have encountered a few times in the past, and I do remember this happening quite a bit. There was this weird smell that I put down to foxes, and it might have been, but I don't know if anyone knows, any of your listeners know a particular smell that's quite weird. It's like a scent, you know. I wouldn't say it's like rotten, but it's very strong. It's very sharp on the senses.
Yeah, that's such a common thing in encounter stories. That overwhelming.
I didn't know that then.
Yeah, well, it's interesting. Quite often, when you know, people have encounters, they'll flash back to times they were in that area before, and they'll realize that you know, these little things like you're mentioning about the strange smell now, that you realize that, geez, maybe some other things didn't quite add up, and everything starts to fall in place. You know, the dominoes start to tip over, and you realize, wow, you know, you actually may have been encountering something all along. You know?
Yes, and I often think too, you know, I wish I'd known about tree breaks and things like that, because we were spending hours and days, you know, long periods of time there. So I would have thought if anything was in the area, they would have known that we were there. I didn't. Sometimes I would get that sixth sense. You know how you just sort of get a little bit of a funny feeling and you look over your shoulder, but of course nothing's there. And for me back then, that feeling was purely about stranger danger, being, you know, 10 to 12 years old. So pretty much that was it. I don't remember seeing anything visually.
Yeah, well, it makes sense that you would associate that feeling with exactly what you've been taught by your parents, and of course it's good to have that feeling. Hey, I'm curious. Do you know anything about the Aboriginal carvings, or what they represent, or what they're all about?
I believe that they're from the Gadigal people. If I'm pronouncing that right, I do apologise if I'm not. These carvings, there was one thing in it that always we used to notice as children, or it was our favourite. There's a carving of a person, and he has like this great big round thing around his head, you know, like a space helmet sort of looking thing. The others are just of animals, you know, that obviously were in the area. That was the only weird one that we thought didn't fit. It could have been just because it was like a, you know, spiritual sort of being for them, and that was the way that they expressed that, by having that big thing around their head. Sometimes I'm not so sure now, you know, what that could be.
Yeah, isn't that interesting that in an area where you've had such an encounter, that there be an Indigenous representation from, you know, maybe hundreds of years ago of just something like that? It's amazing.
And I do believe now that we are finding out through mainstream science, slowly but surely, we are finding out that our first peoples here have been here a lot longer than what the books say. So I think that this was a really special place. There's probably quite a number of carvings throughout it, but you know, some of them obviously hidden away. But it does make you feel quite spiritual in a way being there. It's so lovely and quiet, and just has a good feeling to it.
Yeah, it's amazing how even just actually being in the bush gives you that feeling. But when you get around sort of artifacts like that, and there's that mythological tradition to a place, it's quite a beautiful feeling and a pleasant one. So it's a bit of a shame that you had such a terrifying experience associated with it.
Well, yes. I mean, it was scared the bejesus out of us at the time, but now thinking, I'm busting to go back. I've gone on Google Earth. I've looked to see if there's trails behind there. I've really tried to figure out if it could have been something else. But I just keep going back to those footfalls and the gra, right in my face.
Yeah, it's amazing. When you take into consideration, I found it fascinating that you were mentioning how heavy you found the footfalls to be. Like you could almost feel them going through the ground. That's not a kangaroo or a person. No, that's amazing.
No, absolutely not. And you could tell they would go stomp, 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 just like a person walking. That sort of, you can hear it. A kangaroo, bounce, and then they go quite a bit distance and bounce. It just wasn't like that.
And it's interesting to note that typically with some primates, they'll do that stomping thing to sort of give you a bit of a warning, and so it clearly wasn't trying to approach you stealthily. It was.
Yes, I agree, and I think that I had stuck my head in just too far. I was pushing the envelope. It feels now that it was a warning and that I came too close.
Yeah, well, I think you certainly got the message and responded appropriately. There's no doubt.
You've never seen two 50-year-olds run so fast in your life.
Yeah, it's amazing how a good scare will take a few years off your life, isn't it?
Absolutely.
So, Fliss, you were also mentioning that you actually, subsequent to this, and understandably so, started getting into some research organisations. Can you tell me a bit about that?
Yes. Of course, most people, when something like this happens, they start to Google. And I did the same thing. I have belonged to, one of my favourites is Sasquatch, Ontario. Another one in Australia, Yowie hunters. In New South Wales now, where I live, more near Newcastle way, they have now an Australian cryptozoology research organisation, and it's run by a young lad who's still at school, and he's organised a conference last year that we attended with Gary Opit and Rex Gilroy, and of course they had lots of cast footprints, they had possible fossilised skulls. It was really interesting. So again, they'll be doing it this year, and I'm really looking forward to going. So it's just a grassroots at the moment. We're going on a camping trip. This might be good. We're going on a camping trip to a place called the Wadigans. And the reason we're going there as a group is because two young lads were camping in a campsite there, and one of them was inside the tent as it was dragged right through the campsite and dumped on the other side. I believe they just took off. So we want to go back to that spot and see if we can see any sign. Maybe with us all spreading out, we'll be able to see some sort of evidence.
I bet you do. It's really great to hear that a young fella like that, like this guy still in school, is interested in this and is organising and getting set up. That's really cool because, clearly, we all believe there's really something to this, and I think it'll be that sort of next generation, perhaps, that bring the evidence to the forefront, and that's really great. And that story of the guys getting dragged across the campground, man, that's about as scary as it gets. That's like the Jaws scenario out in the water, isn't it? And it's like,
if that music starts while I'm camping, I'm out of there.
That's it, exactly it.
No, I will be camping in a tent, and I really hope that we can stay up for quite a long time in the night time, because I often think, I'm surrounded by forests here where I live, and I often think that the reason we don't hear anything, we're in bed, we're asleep, all this action is happening at night time, quite possibly, and most researchers or silly TV shows, they go into a place for 2 days. I believe you've got to be there for quite a while. They will find you. You can't find them. That's my belief.
Yeah, I think you're 100% correct in that. I think they're pretty sophisticated in their methods of remaining stealthy, but at the same time, once you sort of come close to their territory, I think a lot of researchers do believe, and I ascribe to this, that they kind of they have sort of sentries posted that make sure that humans don't come too close, and you know, which you would. It seems like a smart thing. Well, anything else you'd like to add, Fliss?
Just that I really believe that what we may be encountering here is a relic hominid, and I get confused because in the Sasquatch world, Yowie world, there seems to be two definite sides: the interdimensional side and just the physical side of it being a relic hominid that is very well adjusted to where it lives, and it's had, you know, such a long time, maybe millions of years, to become stealthy, become masters of their own domain. So, you know, when I think about it, I mean, a lot of people will say, well, why haven't we seen one? Why isn't there a clear photo? Where's the bones, you know? And I say to them, do you know how many feral pigs we have in Australia? It's probably in the millions. Do you ever see them? Do you ever see their bones? You know, so I really believe that we can't just pop this off. There is way too much happening here.
I couldn't agree with you more. I think that's really, really well put. And also, like, when you consider the fact that you know, Neanderthal only went extinct, you know, 30,000 years ago. Homo floresiensis, the little hobbit people up in Indonesia, only went extinct 10,000 years ago. And you know, the indigenous communities around those hobbit people were talking about this little hairy creature that would steal their young. It had language. It had tools. We all assumed, and when I say we, I mean Western science, all assumed that was just mythology until they discovered those bones, you know?
Yes, and I mean, we're trying to put together a 1,000-piece puzzle with only 300 pieces, say. You know, just because we haven't dug it up yet doesn't mean that it's not there. And we all know that fossils are incredibly special because it takes a lot of different factors in that to become a fossil in the first place. And then you've got to, you know, whatever time later, you've got to have someone come along and dig it up just by chance or research. So I just think that 10,000 years ago is a blink in the eye.
Yeah, that's,
you know, evolution. So.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And look, when you consider, like, I hear this a lot. A lot of guys will ask me, oh, you know, why hasn't someone hit one with a car, or why hasn't someone shot one? And I actually believe it's happened several times. And you know, the next thing, you know, after you run into someone, of course, or you run into a creature, what do? You call the cops. The cops probably call you know, national parks or wildlife and game. And you know, there's been just a million reports of from authorities themselves, as a matter of fact, where they're very, very encouraged to keep it quiet, at risk of losing their jobs. So the bodies disappear, and you know, we don't know anything about it.
Imagine trying to explain that to the crash repair guy.
Yeah, that would be it, wouldn't it? You'd want to say, no, I actually hit a deer, because your insurance would suddenly be null and void, wouldn't it?
Exactly. Your insurance doesn't cover Yowie hits. I do believe too that we're looking at a culture of hiding this. We're looking at, oh look, we can't. You know, the authorities say, we can't put this out there. People will not come to our national parks, will lose money. You know, we know about this stuff. Also, that would mean that we would have to put aside larger tracts of land if we want to protect these people in the forest. So there's a lot of factors there that would make people not want to put this out there. There's a lot of talk about, you know, the little missing Spider-Man and things now with Yowies. And, you know, I don't want to say that was or wasn't, but it's looking suspicious.
So, sorry, can you explain that one to me and for the audience?
Oh, okay. Just I'm not sure if I should be, you know, mentioning this. It's a very sensitive subject. Little William Tyrrell that went missing, running around the house in a bright suit, laughing, screaming. It just, once you've done research, you will know that they are big factors in attracting forest folk of any kind, like Sasquatch or Yowie. They are very attracted to that noise of young children. And there's a video going around at the moment on YouTube that does actually interview quite a few kids at the end of it. And with children, it's very easy to tell whether they are lying or not, whether they're just embellishing something. These children saw things. There's a little guy over in America who actually took photos as it was coming towards him on his iPad. I mean, these kids are brave. So I think that there's definite literature there that supports the fact that they do, they are attracted to bright colours, children's laughter, fires. They seem to love being just in the what do you call it, tree line around your campsite. So, I've got some really big thoughts about all that, especially after the Missing 411 and David Paulides' work. Brilliant man. He's just done such a good job.
Yeah, I agree. He's fantastic, and I think all your ideas there about conservation and those types of elements that could lead to a potential cover up are right on the money. And the other thing that I feel is a big factor is the liability issue. It's gone on for such a long time now. They've been pretending that these things aren't out there. And suddenly, if you've got missing people during the last 50 years where they've been covering this up, what sort of lawsuits would they face from the families of those missing people now?
Yeah, and I haven't actually thought of that aspect, but thinking now, that would be a huge issue in America as well, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
That's where we got our, our passion for these suing people. I think there's probably lots of things. A lot of the interdimensional aspects of it really intrigue me as well, as far as orbs and things that are seen in the sky around these guys. How does that work? There's just, my mind is just buzzing with it all.
Yeah, that stuff's fascinating. It's like when you first get into this subject, you think that's really kooky and odd and off the wall, but it seems to be such a consistent element of encounters. Not all encounters, of course, but just it seems like almost maybe 10% of them you start to hear these other very, very strange elements. So.
Yes, and I think that might be part of the energy that you pick up when you're in a place. You say it's spiritual, it feels something. Perhaps that is some sort of energy that attracts these things in the actual place itself, not really attached to the Yowie, or so to say. Perhaps it's just something about the actual area. Just in that comment about the areas, somebody's done a map that has all the missing people, bones found, everything, along with all the Yowie sightings. So this map of the east coast of Australia, there's missing people all the way through it, and the Yowie encounters or the Yowie reports are right there too.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, it seems like that conclusion.
I'll send you a link.
Yeah, it seems like a pretty inescapable conclusion that, at least with some of these disappearances, that these creatures are probably involved. No doubt about it.
Yes, and I'm not sure why. Personally, I've got no basis for this, but personally I don't think it's to eat them. There's something else going on, I'm sure. I mean, if they ate people, there'd be a lot more people going missing, probably. I mean, they have to eat every day. So I don't believe that. I mean, I do believe they're probably an omnivore, but I don't understand. I just have a feeling I don't think that's what it is. But then I don't know what it is then.
Yeah, I kind of, you've thought about this a lot, as I have too, and I kind of got it in my head at one point where I thought, geez, I wonder if when it comes to the children, I wonder whether it's a female young female sort of reaching her reproductive years, and just feeling that need to have a child, have a young one around.
Yes, and I guess if we go back through reports, Native American reports, there are reports there about women being taken by them and kept with them and all that stuff. It's a hard one, isn't it? I guess maybe it's a combination of a few reasons. Maybe we're trying to be too specific, but yeah, I don't know. If it was them taking them for, belonging to their tribe, then I don't know, would it be just something that happens more often with children, or is it each sex of children that go missing. I think there's just a lot of data there that needs to be gone over with a fine-tooth comb.
Yeah, you're 100% correct, and I think also when you're talking about a creature, the tendency is to sort of err towards having this one encompassing view of their behaviors, and in actual fact, if there's a population of them, each individual's personality is as varied as any other group, right? So within that population, you're going to have the crazies, you'll have the happy ones, you'll have the ones that are quick to anger. Maybe you'll even have ones that will say, "Look, I'm hungry, I'm going to eat now," and here's a kid.
I guess thinking too, just imagine if your numbers of your species are becoming right down. You feel in their instinct that the numbers are getting too low to keep the population going. So perhaps they take people at that time when they're worried about their numbers, or they've had a few deaths in their tribe, I'm not sure what to call it, in their clan. So perhaps it's something like that they have these lower numbers to keep the population going. There reaches a critical point where it becomes impossible for that race to continue, and perhaps they supplement it.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I think that's right on the money. Like half of that stuff, as we know, is not premeditated. It's kind of a subconscious reflex action that a creature will take or an animal will take, and whether it's related to the need to reproduce, to have more of a population, or to feed, or to protect their territory. I think it's all pretty reflexive and just a gut reaction.
If they were feeding, and there is this amount of missing people on the East Coast especially, would the chances of finding human bones be more? I mean, if they're just eating, I don't know why any animal or any person would maybe bury the bones, or if it was for an eating thing, I can't imagine that we wouldn't find something.
Yeah, I think you're right about that. But the other aspect of that is this creature is, like you say, potentially over millions of years has evolved, and once it's come into contact with man, things haven't gone very well at all. Like I would assume, and I've heard many reports of this, I would assume that in any time where a child is taken in a rural community or in say an Aboriginal community, I would say that, and there's been witnesses of a hairy creature, I would say that human beings rise up pretty quickly and go pretty much on an all-out genocidal rampage.
It wouldn't take long to realise that these people are a threat. They point guns at you, they make loud noises. I mean, all these things that they would never have encountered. And Australia being so young with the European population, we've got great stories from back at that time. Maybe we're lucky in the fact that we don't have a massive population like in America. So, I don't know, perhaps something, I'm not sure. It makes my mind just go round and round. I ask questions and then the answers bring more questions. And I know people, I trust that people have seen what they've seen. Even one of my son's friends, they were 15, they were sitting on the back of a tailgate of the ute up west of here near the Barrington Tops, and the father was fixing a flat tyre. So they were in a paddock and it was on someone's land, and he was up the front fixing the tyre, two young boys sitting on the tailgate, and they heard this thing move up through the bush towards them. They became more alert, and then he says this thing flew across the track. It was snowy white, not brilliant white, but it was grey white, that sort of white. And he said it moved so fast that he just didn't know what it was. And these are guys that they're up there hunting and stuff, so they know kangaroos, they know rabbits, they know pigs, everything like that that's there, deer. But this, he just doesn't know what it was. He said there's just nothing that I can think that would be like that just flew across this track behind them and off into the scrub on the other side. And the fact that they were probably sitting there laughing and talking, and there was this new thing in the paddock that this or the Yowie didn't like. So I think it's come up through the gully to check them out, and then seen it, and then taken a big whiff right across the track, straight across. So that was really interesting, and that then made my son really believe it because he trusts his friend that he saw something. So he's really interested in the Yowie thing too.
Yeah, it's amazing once you start talking about this to people that the amount of encounters people have had will just sort of pop up out of the woodwork. I actually had one with my old aunt in her retirement home. I was talking about this, and she had an encounter, and just because I was talking about it, she's of that generation where she said, I always wanted to tell someone about it, but I knew I would have got laughed at and ridiculed and called crazy. And she said, I always regret that. And I just said, well, that's the generation you grew up in, and that you did exactly what you thought you should at the time.
Well, it hasn't changed though, has it? Because I don't talk about this to a lot of people. Seriously, I just get the rolling of the eyes, and they turn away and find someone more interesting to talk to. It frustrates me because I just don't know how you can have so much evidence and then still don't believe it. What is it going to take, And even if you're presented with the body, somebody will start saying it's a fake, it's a this, it's a that. You can't win.
Oh, that's it. And look, there's just people who do not want to go outside of their narrow, well-defined worldview. It's to them, it's a little bit too terrifying.
That keeps them feeling safe and secure, and that's the basis behind why the authorities do not want this out there. They don't want people to feel fear and not come to the parks or, that sort of thing.
Yeah, it definitely is probably part of it. Well, Fliss, thanks for being on the show. Also, before you go, I was wondering if you would mind coming back after you've gone on your camping trip and giving us a little update. Would that be okay?
Oh, sure. Do you mean the camp out with the ACRO group, the Australian Cryptozoology guys?
Yeah, exactly. Yep.
That's the one, yep. So we're going in February, so I'll certainly give you an update on that. Let's hope we see something and we've got some photos.
Yeah, absolutely. Stay safe, and I appreciate you being on the show. That was really great, and we'll talk soon.
Thank you, Roger, because it is something that's difficult to talk to people about, and I've really enjoyed our talk this morning, so it feels good. I'll send you a few links.
Thank you very much, Fliss.
All right, have a good day. See you, Roger.
You too. Bye, Fliss. Hey, so that is the end of the episode. Hope you guys enjoyed that. I really appreciated all the comments that have come in the YouTube comments section. There's been some great salient advice when it comes to my audio techniques, which were a bit rusty, I have to admit, during the first episode. Thanks for your patience during that time. It was pretty rough for me to listen to. I know anyone out there that does their own podcast or sings or ever talks into a microphone and has to listen to it back later. It's quite cringeworthy at times. So I appreciate your patience. I appreciate your advice. And I'm definitely really grateful that you're coming here and listening, and you care enough about the show to talk about it in the comments section. So if you haven't subscribed, please do. We'll have another episode upcoming. Once again, we'll be talking to Dave about that really aggressive Yowie encounter story happening down on the border of Queensland and New South Wales. One that's actually associated with a hiker that was missing for 2 to 3 weeks and wound up being found tragically dead at the bottom of a ravine. So Dave will be back on the show to talk about that with us. Once again, thank you so much for being here. I appreciate all the support, all the comments. It's really fantastic. So we'll talk to you guys next week. Stay safe out there. Chat soon.